Hello, welcome back to my world of stuff. My name is that there. Right, Doctor Who and the Star Beast aired last night on the BBC One in the UK and is now available all over the world via Disney+. It's now Sunday morning. I didn't have a chance to record my thoughts on it last night because it was a bit of another Doctor Who night last night. After the episode itself, we had the first episode of Unleashed, the new behind-the-scenes confidential type feature on BBC Three. Channel 5, we had a documentary called Secrets and Scandals of Doctor Who. This documentary's been sitting on the shelf for some time, I think, because I know it was in production ages and ages ago. And this was a slightly cynical tie-in, a bit of a ratings grab by Channel 5, but what the hell, who can blame them? Just looking at some of the secrets and scandals of the show over the last 60 years. And I'll talk about that a bit later on, just as a way of a side thing. Come on, let's talk about the Star Beast. That's what we're here to talk about. First new Doctor Who episode in 13 months. First of the new specials, starring David Tennant, Catherine Tate. Russell T Davies is back in charge. Murray Gold is back doing the music. The gang's back together again, the gang from the glory years of new Doctor Who, if you like. And this episode is going to be slightly polarising for certain reasons that I will talk about, obviously. But I thought, as I suspected, it was a big old romp. And that's what it was always going to be. Now, it occurred to me in the week that Russell T Davies' Doctor Who seasons usually started off with something light and fluffy and daft to get the audience in. Then it would become a bit darker in the middle. Then it would go nuts towards the end. And I think that's what he's done. He's compressed that concept across 3 episodes, because this was the light and fluffy one, this was the family friendly one. Russell himself has been calling it like a big Pixar movie, and I think he's right. That's exactly what it was. It wasn't the best Doctor Who episode I've ever seen. I will go as far as to say that a number of Chris Chibnall's episodes were significantly better, but this was very, very much Russell T Davies in safety mode, telling a big inclusive romp of an adventure full of incident, action, comedy, drama, sentiment, and downright daftness. All those ingredients that he put into Doctor Who back in 2005 onwards that pulled in audiences of, 10 million, 11 million. Times have changed, of course, in terms of terrestrial viewing figures. I'll talk about them at the end of this, towards the end of this video as well. This episode did very well on its overnight figures alone. And it suggests that it isn't, as I've always said about Doctor Who, it ebbs and it flows. It goes through these patches when it's in vogue and it's very popular, then it just dips and trundles along. And then it comes back, and it takes somebody like Russell T Davies to bring it back in a big way. And what he's done with this episode, he hasn't reinvented the wheel. He's just put it back on again for those who think it might have fallen off over the last few years. It's a big, mad old romp that picks up on all those things that we loved in his time as the showrunner. And of course it brings back the Doctor and Donna. It starts off with a slightly cheesy cold opening with the Doctor standing against a starscape, just filling in new viewers and perhaps lapsed viewers about his history with Donna and what will happen if she would get her memory back. Then we see Donna herself sitting in the kitchen at home, reminiscing and thinking that there's something that's missing from her life. And this is the theme that obviously the episode does come back to. It doesn't hang about. We've got the fantastic, and I think it's a great new title sequence. Really colourful, lavish. I love the new arrangement of the music. Murray Gold has always excelled in doing versions of the Doctor Who theme. And this is, I think, his best. I love the sort of extended opening sequence. And then, it's punchy and exciting again. And the title sequence itself is zesty and colourful. Really good stuff. The episode doesn't mess about then. By the way, there will be spoilers in this. If you haven't seen the episode yet, I'll put that in the description, obviously. But obviously, I'm going to have to spoil it to an extent. But I can't imagine that many people watching this haven't seen the episode at least once. So I think I'm on safe ground there. So anyway, the Doctor pitches up in London. He's quite happy walking around then. He bumps into Donna Noble, who is out shopping. Her hands are full of boxes. The Doctor goes to help her, realises who she is and walks away. She has a go at him, as is the way of the original Donna. He then meets up with Rose, Donna's 15-year-old daughter, played by Yasmin Finney. And slowly the threads of fate and destiny pull them back together. A spaceship plunges through the sky almost immediately, crashes somewhere across London. Doctor hitches a ride in a taxi, which, either by convenience or plot contrivance, is driven by Sean Temple, who is played by Carl Collins, who knows his father. And meanwhile, the alien Meep has escaped from this huge spaceship, which has crash landed in the steelworks. The Doctor meets up with Unit's new scientific advisor, Shirley Bingham, played by Ruth Madeley, and eventually we meet up with the Meep, voiced by Miriam Margolyes. Now, the story, as you all know, is taken from a comic strip published in Doctor Weekly back in 1980. Tom Baker was playing the Doctor at the time on TV, and he was the comic strip version. And this is very much a reinterpretation of that comic strip. And if you know the comic, you'll know the twist in relation to the Meep. And this takes that idea as its core, but then puts in all Russell T Davies's characters and bits and pieces in around it. It works very well. And it doesn't stop for a moment. It is one of those breathless romps that if you stop to think about the plot and the mechanics of it and the resolution of it, you go, But it is, as he said, it's a big blockbuster that just carries you away, carries you through it. It's delightful. It is. There's something about Russell T Davies's writing generally. He has this ability to write dialogue that sings and seems so naturalistic. He understands the dynamic of the Doctor, particularly the relationship between the Doctor and Donna, which is just a match made in heaven or hell, depending which way you look at it. And the episode does exactly what you think it's going to do, as the first in a new run of episodes by Russell T Davies. To that extent, I can't fault it, because it was just great fun. Great fun. It was strangely nostalgic. I don't know why it was strangely nostalgic. It was just great to see the Doctor and Donna back together again, and bearing in mind it's 15 years, I think, since they were last on screen together. Time has been pretty kind to them both. I mean, I think David Tennant, he had the energy, zooming around, racing about, as he did when he was the 10th Doctor, because this is, of course, the 14th Doctor. I love the early scenes, and my favourite scenes, actually. There was lots of spectacle, and this review is very random, because I've not written anything down. It's just thoughts pinging through my head about what I saw last night. The battle between Unit and the Wrath Warriors, the great sort of crab-like aliens who are looking for the Meep on the streets of London / Cardiff, were incredibly spectacular. Cars flying through the air, explosions. It was a really, good, well-budgeted action scene, and I think you can see the Doctor's got more money. On that point, I will say I do think that Jodie Whittaker's 3 seasons of Doctor Who looked beautiful. They really looked good. They looked epic. They looked big budget. If you look at things like War of the Sontarans and the Flux series, I may have mentioned this before, that was a massive scale. This was the Crimean War, and you had scenes of English soldiers fighting Sontarans and massive Sontaran spaceships. I don't think this episode necessarily yet shows up the increased Disney budget. I don't think there's anything that this episode did visually that a Chibnall episode couldn't have done, apart from having a better script. So I think we've yet to see the full financial impact of the Disney Plus distribution deal, which has funded the new series. But this looked great. This looked fantastic, directed by Rachel Talalay, who's directed some Peter Capaldi episodes. She's come back and given it a real punch, and it's really there's creative direction here, which you don't always get on TV shows, because the restrictions of the time scales and the way they have to be. Sometimes it's just get this shot in the can. But this looked beautiful. There's a fantastic scene during the battle where the camera is sort of swooping and panning, and then it's following the Doctor and Donna and family as they're climbing across the roofs of the inside roofs of the houses that they've broken in through to get away. It's very well put together. It's a very slick product. And my favourite bits, though, are those little intimate moments that you have that Davies does so well. And it's the moment where Donna's with her mother talking about how she's lost something, and she's had a breakdown, as we discover. She's now better, but she has dreams about things, and that all ties in very nicely with what happens later on. And then when the Doctor arrives at the house, despite the fact that he's determined not to meet Donna and determined not to trigger her memories, there's a scene in the living room of the house, the noble house, where he's quite happily talking about sonic screwdrivers and aliens. He's pushing his luck a bit there in protecting Donna by, coming up with all this trigger terminology that's likely to set off the meta crisis in her head. But no, I love those little bits, and I particularly love the bit where he's talking about Wilf, Bernard Cribbins' character, and I think it's David Tennant tearing up as much as the Doctor, saying how he loved that man and sorry for your loss. Then Donna explains he's not dead, he's in sheltered accommodation. We will see him in the third special, by the way, if you're wondering where he was, because he did film a couple of scenes before he sadly passed away. I think this review of mine has been a bit all over the place, because the episode sort of was. It was so energetic and so colourful and fun. It was great fun to watch. But as I said, it isn't a favourite Doctor Who story. It's not even a favourite Russell T Davies episode, because his episodes always became better and more creative, I think, deeper into his seasons. He always kicked off his seasons, as I said, with a fairly straightforward romp to get the audience back in before hitting them with the heavier stuff later on. And I do feel that's what we had with this. It was a nice, safe bet to have the Meep, as I said, voiced by Miriam Margolyes, as this cute little thing that appeals to kids. Kids would love the Meep. And kids would love the Meep even more when it turns evil. Because kids love evil things, I seem to remember. And I think that it was a wise choice, a sensible choice. Very, it's typical again of Davies to think that way, to use a classic comic strip that many Doctor Who fans, particularly David Tennant as well, remembered it very well. And to see it brought to screen was just delightful. It was just a delightful hour of television, which I really enjoyed. And it's sort of hard to fault it, really, if you want a good bit of standard Doctor Who in a way, with that extra firepower that Davies gives it. I've looked at some of the online stuff. I didn't really want to, but I thought, well, I'll see what fans are saying. I'll see what the general view is. And the general view was pretty positive. Fans thought it was great. Fans really enjoyed it. However, as is the way, as I mentioned at the beginning, it's a divisive episode because it's a very progressive episode. As we must expect always from Russell T Davies, he's a very political writer, and he's an angry writer these days. He's got things to say. But I think what he did in this episode, there are but there's a few examples of what certain elements of fans, and it's usually sadly older fans who wish it was still 1966 and Doctor Who was in black and white for half an hour. And I think their issue isn't so much with Doctor Who, it's with the whole concept of wokeness and political correctness that winds a lot of people up so much. And of course they had issues with Rose, played by Yasmin Finney, who's a character who is trans. Now, this is an issue which is very contentious. People are either fiercely anti anything like this, anything that they see as woke or pandering or preaching, they won't have it. They won't tolerate it. They won't even step aside for a moment to think why it's there and what it's doing and the purpose of it. They just won't have it. It's Doctor Who's ruined, it's PC crap, it's woke crap, BBC box ticking, all this nonsense. But this is generally fans of my generation, if you like, 40 plus. I am considerably 40 plus. But anybody with a long history of Doctor Who were very set in their ways, very staid, very unprogressive. They will kick and scream about this stuff. My view is completely opposite. I like Doctor Who as a straightforward adventure series, very clever, very imaginative. But it's always had a certain element of not preaching, but sort of moralising. Back in, this has been pointed out many times before, but John Pertwee did several stories that were about apartheid, politics, pollution. This isn't new, but I think because the stuff that we get now is more about issues which people are less comfortable with, transgenderism and racism and all these things. My view about these things is, well, there are things in the world. I have no skin in the game, if you like. I accept these things. These things are going to be part of our drama now because they are the issues of the day. They are things that people are concerned about. They are things that people talk about. It's a minority that is vocal and wants to be and deserves to be represented. So it's going to happen. You don't get my knickers in a twist about it, basically. I just sort of accept that it's part of the fabric of the show going forward. But some fans aren't like that. Some fans are, Doctor Who is ruined, Russell T Davies is woke, drivel, claptrap, and you have to set aside those sorts of opinions, that sort of commentary, because it's unhelpful to anybody. It just inflames them, and I find that sort of thing tiresome. I'm aboard Doctor Who for the adventure and the clever social commentary it's able to make. And I think that in this particular episode, obviously, we had Rose as a trans character, and the plot hinged on it at the end of the day. But I think it was dealt with a sort of a subtle enough way to not frighten the horses. People who are against that sort of stuff are going to be against it in any form, if it's just a line or a character or whatever. But it's there, it's what it is. I think it was dealt with sensitively. I have to say, in terms of Yasmin Finney, she has appeared in a series on Netflix, I think, called Heartstop. I've not seen her act in anything before. I wasn't hugely convinced by her performance. I think in terms of the actors, I mean, you've got powerhouses like David Tennant and Catherine Tate. It's hard for anybody to keep up with their pace. And I think that it wasn't a great performance. It wasn't an outstanding performance from her. And I say that in terms of her performance as an actor. I look in at, and I didn't think it was an outstanding performance. It was competent, but didn't sort of make me think, wow, what a fantastic performance by a fantastic character. And of course, there's, I think some people probably even got in a bit of a flap about Ruth Madeley as the unit scientific advisor in a wheelchair. Yeah, so what? Wheelchairs, of course, are a big issue in Doctor Who at the moment with Russell T Davies, with Davros, but we won't go there again. And what was a noticeably diverse cast amongst the unit soldiers and so on. We had lots of representation. That's the way of the world. That's the way the world is. We're going to have these sorts of things. And if you don't like these sorts of things, don't watch any television. Because any TV show you have now is going to have this sort of representation. Whether you think it's just box ticking and TV trying to do the right thing, I don't know. I don't care. It is what it is. I hate that expression. It's there. It's out there. And I think Russell T Davies handled it well in this episode. And of course, the whole resolution of the problem not only reflected the end of time, because you had the Doctor and Donna trapped between, on either sides of a glass wall. And there was even a reflection of the Doctor echoing the scene at the end of time. I could do so much more. Why is it always me? Sort of thing. And then Donna comes to the rescue because she knows that unleashing the power within her, the power of the Doctor that she absorbed in the end of time, can reverse the situation they're in, which is the Meep powering up with the dagger drive, which is a great name for a drive unit on a spaceship, which is going to wipe out London. She unleashes her power. She can reverse that. But the twist, of course, is that because Rose is her child, Rose is part of the Doctor, non-binary. I don't profess to understand all this stuff about binary, non-binary. It's not my battle, if you like, so I don't get involved in it either way. But I think it was quite a neat resolution, but one again which will anger certain black and white fans. So yeah, those are issues that will have annoyed a lot of people. I know they have, but that's their axe to grind. That's they have to come to terms with that, because all entertainment is going to be inclusive, progressive, and these issues are going to be represented. It's as simple as that. So you either don't watch any TV or you learn to live with it and enjoy the bits that you enjoy. So yeah, that's the Star Beast then, really. I don't know what else I can say. I mean, this has been a very slapdash review. I'm not particularly happy with this review because it is all over the place, but I think I've made some of the points I wanted to make. It's a good episode. It's good fun. It feels warm. It's like putting on an old jacket, that you haven't worn for years. This is so comfortable. I know I like this so much. And that's exactly how I felt. It's the Doctor and Donna back together. Of course, at the end, I will mention, of course, the new TARDIS interior when the Doctor and Donna go back into TARDIS for one last trip to visit Wilf. Yeah, right. It's an incredible set. It's huge. It's got these gantries and walkways, and the central console thing is still there. But it's got these huge. It's slightly similar to Tennant's original one with these sort of roundels on the wall, but they all light different coloured LED lighting. It's hugely spectacular. I liked it, but my issue with the TARDIS console room is we spend so little time in it. Doctor Who's about the adventures going out of the TARDIS, and I like the idea of the TARDIS being bigger on the inside than the out. I don't know that we necessarily need it to be this big, unless we're going to have lots of episodes in here, because there's so many runways and doorways. Are we going to explore that? Personally, I think it's an unnecessarily huge set, but it's beautiful design. It's a great design, and I'm sure I'll get used to it. But on first blush, it's like, why is this taking up such a huge space in Bad Wolf Studios? But they got the room. Yeah, anyway, so that was The Star Beast, which I'm going to give, for sheer fun and enjoyment and that nice familiar sensation of being with people that you enjoy spending time with, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. 8 out of 10. I think the disservice it does to Doctor Who going forward is that David Tennant is so good. He really is so good. And Catherine Tate is so good. We've only got them 2 more episodes. Then we have Ncuti Gatwa coming along. Now, no disrespect to Ncuti Gatwa. I suspect he's going to be very good. But I think bringing back David Tennant is a hard act to follow. It is a very hard act to follow because he's so good and he's so beloved amongst the public and fans that I wouldn't like to be in the position of taking over from him. But fingers crossed, the next 2 episodes, I understand the next 2 episodes really take the show in different directions. And I think this is really where we're going to see Davis off the leash. Right, speaking of leashes, we had the new BBC 3 making of series, Doctor Who Unleashed, which is the successor to Confidential on BBC 3 years ago in the original series. It was on around for about 7 series, I think. And this is, again, is the behind-the-scenes Doctor Who thing. This was fine. It's introduced by a very excitable Welsh reporter called Stefan Powell. It was all right. I mean, it seemed a bit shallow, and it was a lot about Stefan Powell meeting people and talking to crew. There's a very nice scene where David Tennant meets up with Pat Mills and Dave Gibbons, who created the original Star Beast. There's lots of nice stuff in it, but it felt a bit fluffy. Much better, however, if you go onto YouTube, which is where you are now, there is, I think, a 15-minute behind-the-scenes thing, which is totally unconnected. It's unpresented, it's just footage, and that's much better, because it really is a 15-minute capsule thing about how the story was created. It shows the TARDIS set being built, it shows the Wrath Warrior actors learning how to use the stilty things they're walking on, it shows the Meep. There's a lot of unfiltered, if you like, just basic footage tied together and I found that much more interesting and less frothy, I suppose. And then we had on Channel 5, took me some time to find Channel 5 because I don't normally watch it, the Secrets and Scandals of Doctor Who documentary. I expected something sloppy and badly researched and badly presented, but it's actually quite good. It was very well researched. Factually, there was a lot of things about dates and episode titles and things. It was all on point, so whoever researched it had got their facts right, which is unusual for this sort of thing. And it was, it was pretty entertaining, actually. There was lots of talking heads. We saw lots of familiar faces. Sophie Aldred wheeled out the incident in the tank in Battlefield where she almost drowned. Fraser Hines was on there talking about Patrick Troughton's 2 families. Nicola Bryant was there. Lots of sort of other... Richard Marson, who was the writer of the John Nathan Turner book. That was the bit which did sort of surprise me, because they discussed John Nathan Turner in, one particular section. And, it was quite open about his tendency to prey on young male members of fandom, without being judgmental, without suggesting that anything completely scandalous happened. But I was surprised that, I suppose for Channel 5, that was a nice juicy bit to put in, because the rest of it was just accidents on set and, costumes and things. But it was quite entertaining, really. I did enjoy watching it. Right, so there we are. It's the Star Beast. The first of the 3 Doctor Who specials is out there now on iPlayer, and the rest of the world, you can watch it on Disney+. So apologies for the slightly helter-skelter nature of this review. I think it reflects the episode itself, which was sort of bouncing off the walls. So, it's good to have Doctor Who back. It's good to have Russell back. It's good to have David and Catherine back. Doctor Who returns next Saturday with Wild Blue Yonder. It's a very short clip available at the end of the Unleashed episode, which doesn't really give you much of a taste of it. But, that's, I think, the episode where we're going to see the show flexing itself a bit more than the Star Beast was intended to do. Right, thank you for watching. Hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, like and subscribe. Leave a comment, stuff like that. And I will see you soon. Until I do, keep taking the stuff.